Let's unpack this. We are diving into a topic that flies directly in the face of what society and certainly, the entire industrial age taught us about how to achieve prosperity.
It really does.
We are tackling this deeply ingrained, universal belief, the idea that wealth requires the grind.
The grind, yeah. Endless long hours, chronic exhaustion.
Exactly. That factory floors once roared with this notion that, sweat itself was virtue. You've been conditioned for centuries, maybe millennia, that if you aren't fighting for it, if you aren't suffering for it, you just don't truly deserve it.
And that deeply ingrained conditioning, that societal hypnosis around the myth of labor is exactly what Wallace D. Wattles sought to dismantle a century ago.
Right.
He was writing right into the heart of the Industrial Revolution, looking at men who worked, literally until they dropped, and yet remained mired in poverty.
And his conclusion was so counterintuitive, it was radical, and it really forms the core claim of this deep dive.
Which is?
Money has never come from work. It comes from alignment.
Whoa, that's a huge statement.
It's a seismic shift in perspective for anyone listening right now who is on that endless hamster wheel of productivity. We've been told that efficiency and hours equal reward. Wattles just says, flat out, that's a lie.
So if we're not earning wealth through sheer physical or mental effort, what's the mechanism? What did he see that everyone else caught up in the hustle just completely missed?
That's the question.
Well, Wattles identified what he saw as the fundamental misunderstanding that plagues humanity. We believe value is external.
External, meaning?
Meaning it's something we have to extract from the earth or, earn from another person. The idea that money is earned from the outside in, that it's a result of manipulating matter.
Okay.
His core insight just turns this on its head. He states that wealth is mental causation, not physical struggle. It responds not to the heavy hand of labor, but to internal coherence, to vibration and the silent frequency of thought held with faith.
I can hear a skeptical listener right now asking, isn't this just positive thinking wrapped in spiritual jargon?
Right. The secret for the 1910s.
Exactly. But Wattles insisted it was much more than that. He framed it as a law, a scientific, metaphysical law of creation that was as reliable as gravity.
It wasn't just a nice idea. It was a mechanism.
A mechanism. So our mission for this deep dive is to unpack that secret mechanism he discovered, which is summarized in that brilliant, deceptively simple quote. You do not get rich by doing certain things.
But by doing things in a certain way.
Yeah.
Precisely.
Yes.
And we are exploring the shortcut to understanding this method, which transforms the experience of work from, this punishing toil into a joyous expression of creativity.
I love that.
Wattles argued that those who move through life with this noticeable ease, they're not lazy or lucky. They're working in partnership with the universe. They're adhering to this law.
So we're going to break down the three interconnected components.
We are. It's thought, which is vision, then faith, which is really certainty, and finally action, but action in the sense of increase. And we'll show how they lead to that effortless flow of supply that so many people call abundance.
That concept, turning work into expression, that's so powerful. I think many of us are searching for that sense of quiet authority that comes with moving away from the anxiety of the hustle. And to really get it, to truly understand this, we have to start at the absolute foundation of his entire system, what he called the thinking substance. Okay, so let's get into this fundamental concept. Wattles' work introduces an idea that, it requires a genuine paradigm shift. The thinking substance.
It really does. And this isn't a metaphor. It's not a poetic idea for him.
Yeah, he's very clear on that.
He describes it as a living, omnipresent ocean of intelligence. The primal essence from which everything, every star, every human, every single molecule of gold is instantaneously shaped.
So it's everywhere all the time.
That's right. He insists on its absolute reality. He described it as a thinking stuff from which all things are made, and which in its original state permeates, penetrates, and fills the inner spaces of the universe.
Okay, so to visualize that, you're saying I should imagine not empty space between things, but a kind of
fluid.
An intelligent matrix.
Exactly. A creative field that is literally breathing through your thoughts, surrounding you right now. This intelligent matrix is the single, undivided source of everything.
So if we accept that premise, even for a moment, the mechanism for creation it's startlingly direct. It's almost shocking.
It is. He states, a thought in this substance produces the thing that is imaged by the thought.
Which means our mind isn't just a passive receiver of reality.
Not at all. It's actively interacting with the fabric of reality. It's providing the blueprint for form.
What's fascinating here is the realization of where true power comes from. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it means this intelligent field, this thinking substance. It's not your job, not your employer, not your market share. That is the true source of wealth.
And this is where humanity, according to Wattles, took a catastrophic wrong turn.
How so?
We started to worship matter, the effect. We started believing it had independent power instead of mastering mind, which is the cause.
So we learned to dig for gold in the physical world.
Never realizing the true infinite mind was within the substance itself, just waiting for a mental command.
But why did we forget this if it's so fundamental? Why did we adopt this whole myth of labor?
Well, I think we adopted the myth of labor, in part because of the increasing density of civilization and the focus on material control.
Okay.
When people moved from, say, agrarian societies to industrial ones, the immediate visible cause of your sustenance became the factory owner or the overseer or just the paycheck.
A physical, tangible thing.
The physical thing.
Yeah.
That metaphysical connection to the infinite source just became obscured by the practical necessity of survival. Wattles was writing at a time when the visible system, the factory, was the most powerful force in the average person's life.
That shift in focus, it explains the paradox he observed in the peak industrial era. A paradox that is, frankly, eerily relevant to today's burnout culture.
Very much so.
He saw men working brutal 16-hour days, backs bent, hands aching, literally giving their life force away. Yet they stayed poor, both in pocket and in spirit.
Right. And he noted that if physical labor were the true explanation for prosperity, then the hardest workers on Earth would be the richest people on Earth.
But the opposite was often true.
And that proved to Wattles that the physical effort was not the cause. It was at best a secondary effect, and often it was just the echo of an internal belief in struggle.
So his conclusion was that the universe isn't some random, uncaring machine operating by chance.
No, it's a living, intelligent mind. And the human mind that truly grasps this truth, that the very air you breathe is programmable, can never be poor again. The moment you accept that the thinking substance is waiting for your instruction, your relationship with struggle just fundamentally changes.
So if the air is filled with this intelligent, responsive material, what determines whether it brings us, diamonds or debts?
The intention, the clarity of the image that you impress upon it, the substance itself is neutral. It's the ultimate mirror. If your dominant belief is life is hard, money is scarce, and I have to fight for every single crumb, then the substance, operating perfectly as a law, creates a reality that reflects struggle and scarcity. It brings you the conditions, the jobs, the circumstances that confirm your conviction.
This is where we shift from just the mechanism to ethics almost. The difference between scarcity and infinite supply.
Yes.
We have been so socially programmed to view wealth as a finite pie, a competitive zero-sum game where if someone gains, you must inevitably lose.
And that is the consciousness of scarcity.
Right.
And the competitive mind is exactly what Wattles warned against as being so destructive. Competition breeds fear, jealousy, separation, and all of that signals to the thinking substance. I believe the source can be depleted, and I must steal to survive.
But the thinking substance, the source,
Yeah.
it's infinite.
It's infinite and self-replenishing. It cannot be depleted or cornered by anyone because it creates endlessly from within itself.
So metaphysically speaking, competition is based on a complete lie about reality.
A total lie.
And when we operate from envy or jealousy, we are actively sending a destructive, energetic signal to the very substance that is supposed to be forming our life.
Absolutely. You have to consider the energy exchange deeply. Every time you envy another's fortune, you are telling the universe, their wealth limits mine, I wish they had less. And this just contracts your entire field of potential.
Whereas,
Conversely, when you bless their abundance, when you genuinely affirm that their gain proves that my potential is possible, you accelerate your own abundance. The distinction isn't moral, it's purely energetic.
so poverty isn't a condition of circumstance.
It's a condition of awareness. It's the result of thinking against the flow of creation. Once that infinite field receives your clear, repeated thought of lack, it obediently manifests lack in physical form.
This is a heavy idea to grapple with, especially for people who are genuinely struggling. You're essentially saying that the primary job isn't breaking your back in the external world.
No.
It's being intentional about the image and the frequency you are impressing onto this primal essence. The gold mine truly is within.
It is the first and most critical step. Wattles discovered that the process synthesizes into a sequence. First, you form a clear mental image of the desired result. Then you hold that image with unwavering faith. You express gratitude constantly to stay connected to the source. And only then do you act in a certain way.
With purpose and joyful expectation, not strain.
Exactly. And that last part, the absence of strain, is the key to our next section because the world is just drowning in strain.
Before we move on, I want to clarify one more point for our listener who is trying to ground this in modern reality. If this thinking substance is so powerful, why isn't everyone who thinks about success instantly rich?
That is the perfect question. And it's because the thinking substance responds not to wishing, but to conviction. Most people's thoughts are mixed. They think, I want success. But underneath that thought, the deeper conviction is, I'm not worthy, or this is too hard, or it won't work for me. The substance isn't reading your surface wish. It's reading your deepest, most consistent vibration.
And if that deepest vibration is struggle,
The substance must, by law, manifest struggle. And the second reason, which we'll dive into, is that thought has to be followed by conscious, aligned action, which is where the vast majority of people fail.
that makes perfect sense. The subconscious fear cancels out the conscious wish. It sounds like the first discipline is managing the internal atmosphere to prevent that conflicting signal.
Exactly.
Okay, let's move to the external manifestation of that internal conflict, the illusion of labor. That brings us perfectly to what he calls in Chapter 2, the illusion of labor. Waddles was deeply concerned that the belief in struggle and effort in our modern grind culture, which has only intensified since his time, is metaphysically dangerous. Why, fundamentally, is the outer world mirroring our inner struggle?
Because the energy of struggle creates friction. I mean, we wear fatigue like medals of honor. We call 80-hour work weeks dedication. We're totally unaware that the frequency of strain is the exact vibration that repels abundance. Or at least it repels easy abundance.
So labor alone, when it's disconnected from faith and vision.
It's pure friction. Think back to your analogy. The wheel turning against the current. No matter how fast it spins, it creates enormous heat, but makes no forward progress toward the intended goal.
And that frantic motion is constantly mistaken for creation.
Constantly. Most people run endlessly chasing what could be magnetized effortlessly if they would just stop running and start aligning.
That's a powerful point. We see effort as a virtue, but Waddles is suggesting that effort disconnected from conviction is just waste.
It is.
It's a vicious subconscious feedback loop. We run because we perceive lack. The running broadcasts struggle. The universe receives that struggle signal and sends back more conflict and resistance, which just confirms that we must indeed fight for what we want.
Precisely. The illusion becomes really dangerous when the mind whispers, if I stop fighting, I'll lose everything. This is the core fear that keeps people trapped.
Right.
Waddles taught that the opposite is true. The fight itself is what keeps you poor because it keeps you anchored in that vibration of competition and scarcity.
So when your energy says, I must fight for what I want, the universe literally sends back conflict. Difficult bosses, impossible deadlines, unexpected financial setbacks. But the moment you affirm, I already possess the wealth of the universe, I'm merely allowing it to take form through my certain action, the resistance just dissolves.
Okay, so let's get very practical here. How does a person distinguish between necessary, focused action and that unnecessary, exhausting struggle?
It's purely an internal feeling. Frantic struggle is characterized by an internal tension, a sense of urgency driven by fear of failure or deadlines imposed by lack. You're acting from a state of begging.
And aligned action. Aligned action, the certain way, is characterized by internal peace, focus, and a quiet confidence. You're acting from the state of knowing. The action might look the same on the outside. You still send emails, take meetings, build products, but the energy behind the action determines whether the result is successful or just exhausting.
Action done in fear produces exhaustion.
And action done in faith produces expansion.
So what is Waddle's antidote to this struggle? What's this metaphysical formula for true creation that replaces the grind and moves us into this state of calm certainty?
He detailed 4 components to the certain way of working, and they have to be practiced daily. First, think richly.
Non-negotiable.
Absolutely non-negotiable. You must refuse to think of money as distant or difficult. Any thought of hardship cuts you off from the creative flow. You replace I must earn with I must align.
Yeah. Okay, what's second?
Second, act calmly. Your physical effort has to be performed with intention, not desperation. Your movement should be graceful, deliberate, infused with the awareness that you're a channel for infinite supply. There's no hurry in the universe. If your action is frantic, it's misaligned.
And third,
rest in faith. After you've done all you can in the outer world, you have to release the outcome entirely. Faith is the ultimate act of energetic surrender. You have to trust the invisible mechanism, the thinking substance, to complete what you began. Worrying about the result literally cancels the action.
and finally,
Live in gratitude. As we'll detail later, gratitude keeps your vibration high and your connection open. It's the constant, immediate language of wealth. It confirms to the substance that supply is already present.
the difference between effort done in fear, which produces exhaustion, and effort done in faith, which produces expansion, it's just profound. You are suggesting that money is literally drawn to calm conviction, not desperation.
It is the coherence the universe responds to. Waddell's genius was seeing that the human mind is the point of entry for the infinite. And when your work becomes a graceful expression of faith instead of a fearful reaction, the magnetic field around you shifts.
And that's when the synchronicities begin.
That's it, the unexpected opportunities, the perfect partner arriving, the inspired ideas that seem to come from nowhere. They arrive because the thinking substance is responding to your certainty, not your struggle.
This choice between effort in fear and effort in faith, it defines what Waddles called the fork in destiny.
Yes, the choice between the competitive mind and the creative mind.
And these two minds, he says, shape every human destiny.
And he was absolute on which one leads to sustainable, joyous wealth. The competitive mind sees life as a battlefield. It's fighting for existing resources because it believes the universe is stingy, finite, and cruel.
Whereas the creative mind,
The creative mind sees life as a canvas.
Mhm.
It creates effortlessly because it knows the universe is generous and infinite. Competition, Waddles called, a disease of the race mind, born of fear and separation. The vibration of competition itself signals, I believe in lack and I must take what others have.
that is heavy. It suggests that even striving to get ahead or engaging in fierce business competition is metaphysically self-sabotaging.
It is.
Competition is basically an active expression of believing the universe is stingy.
Exactly. When you live in competition, you're too busy fighting over fragments of what already exists, a market share, a client list, a promotion. You're not creating something entirely new that expands the entire market.
The competitive mind imitates or steals.
The creative mind originates. The competitive mind fights for position. The creative mind expands the entire field by introducing greater value. The creative mind lives in the vibration of increase.
Can you give us a modern analogy? What does a competitive business strategy look like versus a creative one in this framework?
Sure. A competitive strategy, based on lack, it focuses on reducing costs, cutting corners, maybe exploiting workers, running aggressive, fear-based marketing campaigns designed to steal customers from rivals. The whole energy is contraction.
Okay, and creative.
A creative strategy based on increase focuses on creating products or services that genuinely advance life, that offer exponentially more value than they cost, that seek to make everyone involved richer, the employees, the customers, the suppliers. The energy is expansion. When you operate creatively, you're not fighting for a slice of the pie. You're baking a whole new pie for everyone, including yourself.
So how do we shift from the contraction of competition to the expansion of creation in our daily lives?
Waddles outlined a strategy for the creative mind. It has to become a daily discipline. First, see the infinite everywhere. Deliberately replace scarcity with endless expansion. Train yourself to see that every forest, every new scientific discovery, every star is proof that the universe overflows and creates an excess. There is always more.
Okay, that's a good one.
Second, rejoice in another's success. This is a crucial internal test. When you bless the prosperity of others, you signal to the universe, this is the reality I accept, and there is enough for me too. This instantly dissolves jealousy, the most toxic form of competition, and it raises your frequency.
And third,
Create instead of compete. You have to stop asking, how do I beat them? And start asking, what can I build? What unique value can I originate that no one has yet imagined?
finally.
Live in the consciousness of increase. This means you must speak, act, and think in ways that make everyone and everything around you grow. To think increase is to tune in to the divine heartbeat of creation. You never leave a transaction, a conversation, or a relationship without giving more life, value, or clarity than you took.
The choice is clear. Whenever you envy or compete, you contract and block the flow. Whenever you bless and create, you expand and align with abundance. It's not about business or economics. It's entirely about consciousness.
And when you move from that competitive state, which is loud, frantic, and hollow, to the creative state, which is silent, confident, and unstoppable, You realize the universe isn't moved by your struggle. It's moved by your image and the energy you attach to it.
And that image requires absolute clarity and unwavering focus, which leads us directly to the next stage of the formula, the mechanics of definite vision and sustained faith. Here is where the inner work solidifies into what he calls divine architecture. Everything that exists, from the chair you're sitting on to the greatest skyscrapers, it all started as a picture in someone's mind.
Hmm.
Wattles insisted that you must form a clear and definite mental image of what you want. He called imagination divine architecture because it provides the thinking substance with its exact blueprint.
The universe does not respond to vague hopes or, wishful daydreams or scattered desires. It responds to absolute precision.
And most people never truly create because their mental pictures flicker and fade with every mood, every piece of bad news, every social media scroll.
Exactly. One day they want wealth, the next they fear debt. That drifting mind just scatters its own power, and the thinking substance never knows what command to follow. Without a clear picture, the universe has nothing definite to obey.
And he gave a serious warning about this, the danger of clinging to appearances. If your mind is constantly focused on what is debt, struggle, the size of your current bank account, you're essentially commanding the universe to keep recreating those appearances.
Yes.
If your dominant image is anxiety about bills, the thinking substance obediently constructs situations that match that anxiety.
It's an immutable law. The mind that clings to appearances keeps recreating appearances. Only a definite vision, sustained and emotionally infused, can overrule the momentum of the past.
Why is that?
Because the power of the present moment, the thought you hold now, is always greater than the accumulated inertia of the past. Your outer life is simply a mirror of your dominant image held with feeling. You must see things as you want them to be, not as they appear to be today.
Let's get tactical. What are the practical steps for the learner to cultivate this divine architecture? How do we make the vision definite and avoid scattering our power?
Wattles provided a clear practice of mastery. It requires daily discipline. First, enter silence and stillness. You must withdraw daily from the chaos of appearances where the noise of circumstance and doubt can't reach you. This doesn't mean hours of meditation. It just means 5 minutes of deliberate concentration. In that stillness, imagination becomes pure form.
And what's next?
Second, vivid picture and emotional imprint. You have to see the desired result as already real. Go beyond abstract numbers. Describe the environment, the sensations, the profound gratitude of already having it. Wattles stressed that emotion is the key. It imprints the image onto the universal substance like fire on wax.
So if you imagine the wealth but don't feel the relief or the joy or the certainty of it?
Then the blueprint is weak. It has no power.
Third step.
Refuse contradictory thoughts. This is the daily defense system. Doubt, fear, and worry are the only vibrations strong enough to erase what faith has drawn. Every time doubt arises, and it will, you must immediately replace it with a vision and feel the accompanying certainty again. This is the hardest work of all, guarding the gate of your mind.
And finally,
Act in harmony. Your daily actions must reflect the reality you have already accepted inwardly. If you see yourself as a successful CEO, you don't act like a frightened clerk. The universe meets you halfway through intuition and circumstance, but you have to move as if the vision is guaranteed.
vision is the blueprint, but a blueprint can't stand alone. It needs the energy of conviction behind it. And that energy is faith, which Wattles defines not as blind hope, but as the substance of things desired.
This is where the metaphysical and the practical meet. Faith, in this context, is not wishful thinking that someday, I hope this happens, feeling. It is spiritual eyesight. It's the knowingness that sees through temporary delays into absolute certainty. Wattles meant it literally when he said faith is the substance, the invisible material from which the visible is shaped.
So where thought designs?
Faith provides the energetic density that pulls form out of the formless. It is the spiritual confidence that the thing is already done.
I love that distinction. Hope waits, faith knows. But we are so often trained to think two opposite thoughts at once. One of wealth, one of worry.
And the universe, hearing both, delivers neither. That lack of conviction, that mixing of signals, is the tragedy Wattles observed. It's like turning a radio dial between two stations. You just get static.
Exactly.
The key is that knowingness, the quiet, unshakable conviction that the thing you desire is, at this very moment, forming around you. You have to maintain the inner certainty, even when the outer world shows you the opposite.
But in an age that worships external proof, we've lost the understanding that proof itself is the echo of belief.
The unseen must be believed before it can be seen. Fear feels safer because it keeps us in control. But faith requires surrender, the letting go of how and when the manifestation will arrive. That surrender is precisely when the law begins to work without resistance.
A skeptical listener might challenge us here, though. I've held my vision for 6 months, but nothing has changed. Isn't this proof that the law isn't working for me? How does Waddles address that critical period of delay?
Waddles explains that delay is a necessary period of reorganization. If you are ordering a massive mansion from the thinking substance, the materials, the people, the circumstances, the funding, they have to be moved across the universe to assemble at your location.
So it takes time.
It takes time, not because the substance is slow, but because the existing material reality needs to rearrange itself. The mistake people make is looking at the visible lack during this delay and letting that lack cancel their invisible progress. You must detach from appearances.
That's a huge point.
You have to understand that the field is busy reorganizing itself beneath the surface long before the flower breaks ground.
That is powerful. You cannot let visible lack cancel invisible progress. So what's the formula for maintaining this knowingness, this sustained faith in action, especially during that stressful period of delay?
Waddles gave us specific ways to stabilize that certainty vibration. First, speak the language of completion. You must use present tense certainty in your internal monologue and when you talk about your life, not, I will have wealth someday, but wealth now flows through me, or I am now a channel of abundance.
Words are creative sound.
Faith gives them life, and the present tense affirms the now reality. Second, feel before you see. Spend time each day entering the emotional reality of fulfillment. Feeling precedes form. Emotion is the magnetic field that attracts the conditions you desire. This is why just intellectually accepting the idea is useless. You have to emotionally inhabit the new reality.
Okay, what else?
Third, detach from appearances. If the debt collector calls, you handle the situation practically, but internally, you must instantly reaffirm that this visible condition is temporary and irrelevant to the invisible reality you are creating. You act as the one who knows their financial freedom is guaranteed.
And fourth?
Act as the channel, not the beggar. Work, plan, give, and speak as one who already lives in supply. Actions taken in certainty multiply results. Actions taken in desperation scatter them and signal lack.
Faith is the golden bridge. But what is the maintenance system that keeps that bridge from eroding? Waddles called gratitude the great harmonizer and the magnetic key.
It is, and gratitude is not a social custom or a mere pleasant feeling. It's the ultimate alignment tool, the vibration that instantly locks you into the frequency of abundance.
Right, because most people only feel grateful after things go right.
But Waddles insisted that metaphysically, gratitude is not the effect of abundance, it is the cause. He wrote, "The grateful mind is constantly fixed upon the best, therefore it tends to become the best. It is the mental state that connects you to the source."
This circles back perfectly to the physics of complaint. If gratitude is cause, then complaining or dissatisfaction sends a signal of I do not yet have enough, which constricts the flow immediately.
That's right. It's not punishment, it's pure, immediate physics. Every word of resentment, dissatisfaction, or irritation broadcasts lack. And the universe, which only mirrors belief, must send you more lack to match your conviction.
Gratitude reverses that signal instantly.
It does. It declares abundance now, even for the things that have not yet appeared. It's the bridge between the unseen and the seen. It doesn't wait for proof, it creates proof. If you are grateful for the potential of wealth, you are already feeling the emotion of having it, and that emotion is magnetic.
So how do we integrate this active causal gratitude into our daily lives, making it a constant habit rather than a sporadic reaction?
Waddles provided clear steps to integrate gratitude into the rhythm of life. 1. Set the rhythm with affirmation. You begin and end each day with thanks. Upon waking, affirm, I am one with the source of infinite supply, and I am grateful for the life that flows through me. At night, give thanks not just for what happened, but for what is unfolding unseen in your future.
I like that. Unfolding unseen.
2. Be grateful for possibility. When you can consciously thank life for what is still forming, the desired business, the perfect relationship, you prove your faith to the universe, and that acknowledgement accelerates manifestation.
Okay.
3. Turn complaints into creations. This requires tremendous discipline. When irritation or frustration arises, say, you get stuck in traffic, pause and reframe it. Even this delay serves my greater expansion, or I'm grateful for this opportunity to practice calm and patience. Gratitude transforms resistance into raw creative power.
And lastly,
Express increase in daily interactions. You must speak and act so that every person and situation you touch feels richer for your presence. This is the practical side of gratitude. It radiates increase, and increase must multiply its source.
Gratitude is the invisible currency. When you stop chasing wealth and start living in the frequency of it, miracles become natural occurrences. Now we have this powerful internal alignment, vision, faith, gratitude, but we need to connect it to the outward motion of life. Otherwise, we just become passive dreamers. We need to act. By thought, you make the thing. By action, you receive it. That quote beautifully bridges the inner and outer worlds. We've done the inner work, created the blueprint, stabilized the vibration. Now, how does one act in this state of alignment, what he calls acting in a certain way? What distinguishes this certain way from the chaotic action most of us engage in?
The distinction is in the energy that's driving the movement. To act in a certain way is to work as the infinite works. Calmly, precisely, without fear of loss or doubt of result. It's not about effort, the pushing, but essence, the expression.
The universe never rushes.
It never rushes. It moves with absolute certainty and perfect timing. You move not to make something happen, but to express what is already happening through you because you know the result is guaranteed. When you act in this consciousness, your deeds carry a gravitational power, and the world begins to organize itself around your conviction.
Most people are acting from confusion, though. Rushing to meet perceived deadlines, reacting to competitors, fearing they might miss their chance. Their actions are frantic and barren of creative force.
Right, because the fear of failure literally makes failure more likely. The energy of their work is distorted, and the universe responds in kind. Scattered results, unstable income, inconsistent opportunities.
So action alone does not create.
Conscious action does. The one who acts from faith never worries about results because he already knows the outcome. He has seen it in his vision. The energy he sends forth carries certainty, and certainty is irresistible because it aligns perfectly with the thinking substance.
Let's face the biggest question here. If I need a new job, should I just quit my old one and wait for inspiration? How do I begin to act in a certain way?
Waddles was very practical here. He recognized that people need to maintain their current position while they create their new one. The certainty of action doesn't mean irresponsibility. In fact, it means the opposite. Your actions must be hyper-responsible and hyper-focused.
So the certain way method starts exactly where you are.
Exactly. Within your existing circumstances by perfecting your current expression.
So let's get into the specifics. What is the certain way method for conscious, powerful action?
There are 4 key practices for the certain way of action, and they require a complete mental overhaul of your work habits. First, act where you are now.
Don't wait.
Do not wait for perfect conditions or the right opportunity. The infinite always begins here, now. Whatever task lies before you, answering emails, cleaning your desk, talking to a difficult client, is the exact material through which your vision will express itself. Perfection in the now creates perfection in the future.
And number 2.
Act with calm efficiency. This is the antithesis of the frantic hustle. Move deliberately, as if success were metaphysically guaranteed. Each action performed with composure carries more power than 1,000 done in anxiety. Instead of firing off 50 vague emails in a panic, you send 5 perfectly tailored messages rooted in the conviction of success.
Third,
Do every act as a complete act. Waddles gave the powerful instruction to put the whole power of your mind and will into every act. Treat every task, however small, from making coffee to designing a new product as sacred service, infused with the full certainty of your ultimate vision.
so if you treat a small task carelessly,
You're training the universe to deliver big results carelessly.
and the final step,
Detach from the result. Once the action is done, release it completely to the infinite substance for completion. Worry is interference. Rest is faith. This is the hardest step for the goal-driven person, but it's necessary. Once the blueprint is handed over through thought and faith, your physical job, your action is complete. The infinite completes what you began.
I often hear people worry, how do I know if I'm acting from fear or from faith? How do you tell?
Listen to your internal conversation after the action. If you acted from fear, you'll be restless. You'll be anxiously checking your phone, obsessing over why the response hasn't come yet. That anxiety is the negative signal that often repels the result.
And if you acted from faith?
You'll feel peace. You'll be able to move immediately and calmly to the next task because you know that the law is perfect and your work has already been registered by the thinking substance.
When you move like this, calmly, faithfully, deliberately, you become unstoppable. Not because you're forceful, but because you are certain. And that certainty leads to the final state of alignment, what Waddles called the effortless stream of supply.
It's the ultimate state of cooperation with the universe. You no longer chase the current, you become the current. Money, opportunity, key people, and circumstance begin to move toward you as naturally as rivers seek the sea.
And it's not because you finally worked hard enough.
But because you have entered alignment with the great circulation, the endless, generous motion of divine supply.
This introduces a powerful and very counterintuitive paradox of divine economy. Wealth is a river that must circulate.
hmm
Hoarding from fear stagnates the current, but giving from faith accelerates it. The less you cling, the more you attract.
That is the crucial realization, and it directly challenges the fear-based structure of traditional saving. Money is energy, not matter. Hoarding money out of fear, seeing it as proof of security, is like building a dam on the river flowing to you.
And that dam creates stagnation and drought.
And the resulting feeling of contraction is what people call reality. When you cling to money, that fear drives it away. Your task, according to Waddles, is to stabilize your vibration so wealth can circulate freely through you and out into the world. You are the channel, the riverbed. Money is the water.
So in the Waddles framework, spending money joyfully, giving generously, circulating wealth, it's not just charity. It's a metaphysical tool for increasing your own supply.
It is the ultimate affirmation of faith. The moment you give or spend or invest from a place of certainty, not panic, you prove your trust in the source, and the universe must instantly expand your capacity to receive more.
And it's about the feeling behind it.
Always. If you spend $100 and immediately worry, the universe registers that fear. If you spend $100 and internally affirm, I am so grateful for the endless supply that provides this and will bring me 1,000 more, the universe responds to that second thought. Clinging shuts down the intake valve. Circulation opens it wide.
It's also about anchoring every action and every financial transaction in peace and receiving without guilt. I think a lot of people repel abundance unconsciously because they feel unworthy of it.
Or they believe that having wealth makes them corrupt.
Right. And creation cannot bless a vessel that refuses to open due to fear or guilt.
That is the final stage of alignment. Accepting that you are a perfect, worthy channel for the thinking substance. And that acceptance leads us to the synthesis in his epilogue. The realization that we were never actually chasing money. We were chasing meaning or life itself.
If money is merely the shadow of something greater, what is the light? What is the true currency we should be seeking?
The light is awareness. It's the radiance of divine life expressing through awakened consciousness. When Waddles wrote that the purpose of life is the advancement and increase of life, he was describing the real currency.
So when you stop serving money,
When you stop making it your primary goal and you start serving the continuous advancement of life, then money serves you automatically as a tool for that advancement. The highest prosperity isn't having a certain amount of dollars, it's the peace and certainty of knowing this law and living in harmony with it.
so the ultimate instruction isn't about getting, it's about giving increased circulating life and value wherever we go.
Yes, the ultimate instruction is circulate life wherever you go. Give more energy, clarity, kindness, efficiency, and beauty than you take. This is the divine economy, and in it, your return is guaranteed. When you live as an expression of increased radiant, generous, certain, the universe bends around you in recognition. You realize you do not earn by striving, but by being the source of increase.
This has been a truly exhaustive deep dive into the metaphysical mechanics of wealth creation, moving beyond the cultural myths of struggle and scarcity. The core message from Waddles is so clear. Stop chasing the shadow that money achieved through exhausting struggle and start honoring the light.
Alignment, definite vision, unwavering faith, and that continuous causal gratitude.
When you master your consciousness and act in a certain way, the external reality, it has no choice but to conform to the inner picture you hold.
And remember that the law is perfect. Everything that belongs to you is already yours and always has been. The resources are there, just waiting for your instruction. So if money is merely a mirror reflecting your belief about your own power and your worthiness to receive, then the most important question you can ask yourself today is this: what belief are you going to send out right now? Go forth not as a seeker, hoping to earn a living, but as a sower of increase, knowing that the current moves, the river flows, and your only job is to remain open, peaceful, and certain.